In exercise 21E, we're to read aloud while paying special attention to the tenses of verbs and then translate. So this is just a short paragraph that they've given us just to help us review the various tenses that we've learned so far in Latin. So why don't we go ahead and get started. Sextus tamen non abdormivit nam de militis fabula cogitabat. Abdormivit is our first verb in this passage, and it's perfect tense, which you can tell by the letter V right here, the perfect tense stem marker, third person and singular. Cogitabat is the verb in this dependent clause, and it is imperfect, third person and singular. You can tell that it is imperfect by the letters B-A that are in between the roots of this verb, cogita, and the personal endings of this verb, which is just the letter T. Whenever you see whenever you see a verb with the letters BA stuck in the middle of it and looks kind of out of place, that means that it is an imperfect tense verb. So let's go ahead and translate this. So, sextus tamen, however, abdormivit, did not sleep. Did not sleep. Since it's perfect, we need to translate it as a completed action in the past. Nam de militis fabula cogitabat, for he was thinking. Cogitabat is imperfect, third person singular. For he was thinking about the story. About the story. And then militis is genitive, masculine, and singular. He was thinking about the story of the soldier. The story of the soldier. So, de fabula is your prepositional phrase. He was thinking about the story, and then the story itself belongs to the soldier. For he was thinking about the story of the soldier. Next sentence. Aeteque Deu vigilabat et de aldo mortuo cogitabat. Aeteque is a Latin adverb just meaning and so or therefore. And Deu is an adverb meaning for a long time. Vigilabat is our verb. It, along with cogitabat, is imperfect, third person, singular. Vigilabat means was staying awake. So in this case, and so, or therefore, he was staying awake for a long time and he was thinking about the dead Aulus. And I'll go ahead and translate this one again since this is getting a little messy. And he was thinking about the dead Aulus. Aeteque, and so he was staying awake, Deu, for a long time, and he was thinking about the dead Aulus. And there's your prepositional phrase. Aulus and mortuo are ablative and singular and masculine. About the dead Aulus. Next, tandem, at last, he said Marcus. At last he said Marcus. Tune temebas, ubi illam fabulam audivisti. Tune is a rather strange looking word, but it's actually just do you. The word ne here at the end of the word to is the way that the Romans would ask a question. In English, we would typically write the word do, like I've done right here. The way that the Romans asked a question is by adding the letters ne onto the subject or another word in their sentence. So in this case, Sextus is just asking a question. So tune temebas ubi illam fabulam audivisti. Temebas is imperfect and second person singular. So in this case, Sextus is talking to Marcus. I mean, as indicated by the vocative case on the word Marke here. So he's directly addressing him. Timebos is imperfect, so I'm going to use the word were to translate it. Were you scared? Were you scared? And then the word ubi here is a conjunction meaning when, and then audi visti is perfect tense and is also second person and singular. So you're going to translate this as when you heard. When you heard, it's in the perfect tense, so it needs to be a completed action that has taken place in the past. When you heard Ilam Fabulum, that story. Were you scared when you heard that story? Next sentence, sed Marcus nihil responded. But Marcus responded nothing. And respondit is from respondeo, respondere, respondi, and then responsurus. I'm writing out the principal parts of this verb here because it's a second conjugation verb, as you can see here by the macron over the significant vowel, the letter E. The I that we see here is part of its perfect tense. It's part of its third principal part. It's perfect tense and third person and singular. So you need to translate it as responded. So, but Marcus responded nothing. But Marcus responded nothing. Iterum, again, he said Marcus. And just based on context, inquit is a rather strange Latin word. And doesn't, if you were to look it up in the back of the dictionary, it just says he or she says or said without any other indication. It's just an irregular verb that's used so often. I would take it as perfect tense just based on the context here. We've got a perfect tense verb here, lots of imperfect tense verbs as well. So it would probably make the most sense to translate it as said, but you've got some leeway here. But let's get back to translating. Iterum, again, he said Marcus. Again, he said Marcus. Remember, Marcus is vocative and singular. He's directly addressing Marcus. Next sentence, tune kau ponam spectabas. Tune, again, it's just you plus the question marker in Latin, the letters ne, which signify a question. Spectabas, which is imperfect and second person and singular. Since it's imperfect, you would translate it as you were watching or looking out for. Let's go ahead and translate this sentence. So, Marque inquit Marcus, he said, tune calpone spectabas, were you watching the innkeeper? Tune, were you watching the innkeeper? Calponem here is our direct object. It's accusative and singular. Iterum silentium. Iterum is just an adverb meaning again. And silentium just means silence. Diende sextus, then sextus, iam timidus, now afraid. And what did he do once he was afraid? Inquit Marque. He said, Marcus. So, diende sextus, then sextus, now afraid, he said, Marcus. And Marque and Marque here are both in the vocative case. He's directly addressing Marcus. Next sentences. Cur tu abdormiwiste, cur tu non vigalawiste. Abdormiwiste is perfect tense. You can tell by the V, perfect tense 10 marker. And it's second person and singular. Vigilawiste is also perfect tense and second person and singular. Abdormiwiste means sleep, so you're going to translate it as slept. And vigilawiste means to stay awake, and so you'll translate it as stayed awake, since it's in the perfect tense. Let's go ahead and translate these sentences. Why did you fall asleep? Why did you go to sleep? Tu non vigiliste? Why did you not stay awake? Why did you not stay awake? Why did you not stay awake? Next sentence. Subito sonitum in cubiculo audivit sextus. Subito just means suddenly. And our verb is here. So suddenly, sextus heard. Audivit is perfect tense and third person and singular. So suddenly, sextus heard. Sonitum, a sound. It's our direct object. In cubiculo, in the room. I'll translate this one again. Subito sonitum in cubiculo audivit sextus. Suddenly, sextus heard sonitum, a sound, in the bedroom or in the room. Next sentence. O mi misero, which is just translated to O miserable me. O miserable me. Next sentence. Audi vitne sonitum aulus ille miser ubi calpo iam nicere parabat. Our first verb is here, audi vitne. Audi vitne is a perfect tense verb, and it's third person and singular, coming from audio audire, which means to hear. Audio audire, which means to hear. This ne at the end of this verb, this suffix ne, is used in Latin to ask a yes or no question. So I'm going to start off with the word did, and then our subject is here, aulus ille miser. Ille is a demonstrative adjective, and it's just translated as that. Miser is a descriptive adjective meaning miserable, and then aulus here is our subject. So did that miserable aulus, and then audi vitne means heard. And I'm going to put here, since we've expressed the perfect tense in the first word of the sentence, the word did, that indicates in English that we're asking a question. So did aulus hear, and then sonitum, the sound, or maybe a sound. Did that miserable aulus hear a sound? And then ubi calpo iam necare parabat. Parabat is imperfect and third person singular, and it's from pero parare, that means to prepare. Ubi just means when. Calpo here is our subject, when the innkeeper, and then we can jump over to our verb, was preparing. And what the innkeeper was preparing to do is complemented by this infinitive here. The word necare, was preparing to kill. And then our direct object here in this sentence is the word iam, eam here, which means him. And that's our direct object here in this sentence. Even if you're not familiar with this word eam, you can tell that it's accusative and singular based off of the um ending here. But it's from a series of pronouns, personal pronouns that mean he, she, and it in Latin. You can look them up in the charts if you're curious about how these pronouns here decline. But this particular form is accusative, masculine, and singular. Accusative, masculine, and singular. I'll go ahead and translate this whole sentence again. So, audi vitne, did that miserable aulus hear a sound when the innkeeper was preparing to kill him? Quales sonitus fuit? Qualis is a question word meaning what kind of. What kind of. And then our verb in the sentence is fuit. Fuit is from sum esse, fui, futurus. These are the four principal parts of the verb to be in Latin. You can see here the third principal part, which in Latin is the perfect tense form of that verb. So the verb that we have here, fuit, is also going to be is perfect tense, and that T ending there means that it's third person and singular. And so I'm going to translate the word fuit here with the word was. Was it. And then the last word in the sentence that we need to translate is sonitus. And sonitus in Latin means sound. Sound. What kind of sound, question, was it? I'll translate that again. What kind of sound, fuit, was it? What kind of sound was it? Remember that fuit is perfect tense, third person, and singular. Next sentence. Sonitum sextus iterum audivit. Iterum is an adverb that means again. Sextus here is our subject. And audivit is our verb, which means heard. Audivit is a perfect tense, third person singular verb that's from the verb audio audire, that means hear. And then what sextus heard again was a or the sound. Since Latin doesn't have what's called an article, you can supply whatever you feel makes the most sense. But sextus audivit heard a sound again. One more time. Sextus heard again the sound. Next sentence. O Euclides. Inquit, he said. O Euclides, he said. Cur ad cubiculum nondum vinisti. Our verb is here, vinisti. It's perfect tense, second person and singular, and it's from the verb venio, venire, which means to come. To come. Translating the sentence, the word cur indicates a question and is just translated why. And then ad cubiculum is a prepositional phrase meaning to the bedroom, and nondum is an adverb that means not yet. So let's go down to our verb here, vinisti, which also contains our subject. So vinisti, why have you, nondum, not yet come ad cubiculum to the room or bedroom? I'll translate that again. Why have you not yet, and then vinisti here means come, so why have you not yet come ad cubiculum to the bedroom? O pater, O father, O father, cur me in Italia reliquisti, reliquisti, et reliquisti. This verb here, reliquisti, is perfect tense, and it's also second person singular, and is from the verb relenquo, relenquare, which means to leave behind. This is where we get our English word relinquish, which is when you formally leave something behind or you give up a claim or something like that. Now that I know the tense of this verb, I'm ready to translate it. Cur is asking a question and is just translated as why. Why did you leave? And then our direct object here is the word me. So why did you leave me behind? And then in Italia is a prepositional phrase that means in Italy. Why did you leave me behind in Italy? Next sentence. Volutisne ita me ad mortem mittere. Volutisne is our verb in the sentence. Volutisne comes from volo, vele, volui, which means to want. If you look at the third principal part of this verb, you see that the spelling is, the spelling of the root is identical to the word that we have here. So that volutisne is a perfect tense verb, and it's second person and singular. Second person and singular. This is another question. but if it wasn't a question, we would translate it as you wanted. Now that we know the tense of this particular verb and what it means, let's go ahead and translate the sentence. So, volutisne aita me ad mortem mittere. Volutisne here, did you want, and what his father wanted is complemented by the infinitive mittere, which means to send. So did you want to send? Our direct object here is me, or me. Ad mortem, prepositional phrase, but this means to death. And then the word aita is an adverb that means thus or in this way. So did you want to send me to death in this way? Did you want to send me to death in this way? Next sentence. In Asiam ad te ire volo. Volo is present tense and is first person and singular. So we will translate it with the word I. The word means want. So I want. It's from volo vele. I want. And then what he wants to do is complemented by the infinitive ire. I want to go. And then we've got a prepositional phrase here, ad te, to you, and one more prepositional phrase, in Asiam, in Asia. Sextus's father is staying in the Roman province of Asia, Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey. So I want to go to you in Asia. Next sentence. Ibi inam nolum est periculum, sed periculosum est hic in Italia habitare. Our verb here in this sentence is the linking verb est. Est is present tense and third person singular and is translated as is. Now that we know the tenses of our verbs, we're ready to go ahead and translate the sentence. The first word that we're going to translate is enum, which is a postpositive conjunction, which means that while it appears second in Latin, it should appear first in your translation. So, let's go ahead and translate this. Ibi enum nolum est periculum. If you remember from some of the early chapters of Ecce, when you have the verb est appearing without a subject, it is typically translated with the word there. So there is, and then nolum periculum, for there is no danger. Nolum periculum, both of these words here are nominative, singular, and they're neuter. For there is no danger, and then we have the adverb ibi, which means there, for there is no danger there, i.e. in Asia, for there is no danger there. Sed periculosum est hic in Italia habitare. But it is dangerous habitare, to live, but it is dangerous to live, hic, here, and then we've got a prepositional phrase, in Italy. You could also take here habitare as the subject of the sentence, since it's an infinitive. That's a use of the infinitive that's acceptable there. So we could translate it as, but to live in Italy, hic, here is periculosum, dangerous. I will translate the whole sentence again. So enum for est, there is no danger there, i.e. in Asia Minor, where Sextus's father is staying, said, but to live in Italy here is dangerous. Next sentence. multa se rogabat sextus nam quamquam puer temerarius isse solebat, nunc media nocte in cubiculo tremebat. So, let's go ahead and translate this. Sextus is our subject here in this sentence. So sextus, and then rogabat here is our verb. It's imperfect, and it is third person singular. So sextus was asking, and then you have the word say. Say is what's called a reflexive pronoun, meaning that it reflects back onto the subject, which is sextus. So sextus was asking himself. Multa, many things or questions. Multa is accusative and plural and neuter. And since it's neuter, you can translate it with the word things or questions. So Sextus was asking himself, and see how this reflects back onto the subject, was asking himself many things. Then we've got this word nam, which is just translated for. And then quamquam puer temerarius isse solebat. And you can translate this sentence in a few different ways, but you should definitely start out with the word although. For although puer, the boy, isse solebat, was accustomed. Solebat is imperfect, third person and singular. Which is from the verb solio solere, which means to be accustomed to do something. And then this verb is complemented with an infinitive that means to be accustomed to doing or being, whatever the infinitive means. So solio solere was accustomed to be. We've got the word isse here, complementing solebat. And then temerarius, which means bold or rash or reckless. And you can translate this a couple of different ways. So for although he was accustomed to be a bold boy, although he was accustomed to be a bold boy, that would be another way that you could translate the sentence. Nunc media nocte in cubiculo tremebat. Tremebat is our verb in this part of the sentence, in this clause. It's imperfect and third person singular, and it's from tremo, tremire, which means to tremble. So we would translate this as was trembling. Nunc is an adverb, meaning now. So now he was trembling in cubiculo, in the bedroom. And the word media nocte means at midnight. And you could also say until midnight. I think that would be an acceptable way of translating it. At midnight or in the middle of the night. I'll go ahead and translate the sentence again. So Sextus was asking himself many things. Sextus was asking himself many things, for although he was accustomed to be a bold boy, or although the boy was accustomed to be reckless or bold or rash, nunc, now he was trembling in cubiculo, in the bedroom, media nocte, at or to or until midnight. Moving on to the next sentence. Aeteque sextus per totam noctem vigilare paratus deu ibi sedebat. Our verbs are here. Sedebat, which is imperfect. Third person singular, which is from the verb sidio sidere, which means to sit. So in this case, it was sitting. Translate it was sitting. Now that we found our verb, we can go ahead and translate the rest of the sentence. Aitoque sextus. Aitoque means and so, sextus. You could also translate it as therefore. So, and so sextus, vigilare peratus, prepared, vigilare, to stay awake, per totem noctem, through the whole night. So prepared to stay awake through the whole night. Sedebat was sitting. Ibi, there. And then deu is an adverb that means for a long time. For a long time. One more time. And so sextus, prepared to stay awake through the whole night, was sitting there for a long time. Quomodo iam e manibus calpones scelesti effugere possum. We have one verb here in the sentence, which is possum, which means I am able or I can. It's from possum, posse, which means to be able to do something. It's a word that's typically complemented by an infinitive, like the word effugere here. Now that we found our verb and indicating its tense, which is present and first person singular, we can go ahead and translate the rest of the sentence here. Quomodo is an adverb that asks a question. So in what manner? In what manner? Possum, am I able? And then the word possum here is complemented by the infinitive effugere. Am I able to flee? Calpones scelesti a manibus iam. To flee now, a manibus, out of the hands. And then these hands belong to the wicked innkeeper. Calpones scelesti is genitive and singular. Out of the hands of the wicked innkeeper. Translate that one again. Quomodo, how am I able to flee now out of the hands of the wicked innkeeper? Wicked innkeeper. Next word, sentence. Sontne omnes calpones scelesti. Sontne is our verb. It's present tense and third person plural. It's from sum esse, the verb to be in Latin. The ne at the end of it indicates an yes or no question. Now that we found our verb in its tense, we can go ahead and translate the rest of the sentence. Sontne, are, and then omnes, are all. Calpones, innkeepers. Scelesti, wicked. Are all innkeepers wicked? Next, fortasse capo me, filium civis praeclari, necare in animo habet. And animo habet is our verb. It's a Latin idiom that means intends. It's literally to hold in mind. The tense of this verb is indicated by habet, which is present tense, third person singular, and it's a Latin idiom, so it literally means to hold or to have in mind. So we would say the word intends to translate it. So, fortasse, perhaps, our subject is here, calpo, perhaps the innkeeper in animo habet intends, and then the meaning of the word intends, what the innkeeper intends to do, is complemented by the infinitive necare. Perhaps the innkeeper intends to kill, who? May, the son of a civis praeclari. Civis praeclari are two different declensions. Civis is third declension, and praeclari is second declension. However, these two words agree with each other because they are both genitive, masculine, and singular. So the way that you would translate this is of a distinguished citizen. Perhaps the innkeeper intends to kill me, the son of a distinguished citizen, civis praeclari. Translate that one again. Perhaps the innkeeper intends to kill me, the son who belongs to a distinguished citizen. Next sentence. Quamquam aulus aurum habuit, ego nihil habeo, neque aurum neque pecuniam. Our verbs are here. Habuit, which is perfect tense, and third person singular, and it's from the verb habeo, habere, habui, habitus. This particular form, habuit, you can see how similar it looks to the third principal part. Remember, the first principal part is the present tense, first person singular. Second principal part is the infinitive. And the third principal part is the perfect tense form. We've got this U here, typically the perfect tense marker. So this verb is definitely perfect tense and third person singular. And our next verb is habeo, which you can see here looks exactly like the first principal part, habeo. So habeo here is present tense and is first person singular. This O here is a first person singular ending. Now that we found our verbs, we can go ahead and translate the rest of the sentence. So quamquam, which just means although, and our subject is here with aulus, although aulus, habuit, had or possessed, and then aurum here is a second declension neuter noun that means gold. So though aulus had gold, ego nihil habeo, I have, and then nihil, nothing. I have nothing. And then neque is a correlating conjunction. So when you've got two neques in the same clause, we're going to translate it as neither nor. So sextus, I have nothing. Neque aurum, neither gold. And then neque pecuniam, nor money. And I'll translate this again. Quamquam, although aulus had gold, ego I, habeo, have, nihil, nothing, neque, neither gold, neque, nor money, neither gold nor money. Next sentence. Aita cogitabat sextus. Cogitabat is our verb. It's imperfect, which you can tell here by the letters ba. It comes from the verb cogito cogitore, which is a first conjugation verb that means to think. To think. Its perfect tense form is cogitavi, but we don't need that here. So it's imperfect and third person singular. So you would translate it as was thinking. And then aita is an adverb that means in this way. In this way. And of course our subject here is sextus. So sextus was thinking in this way or thus. Sextus was thinking in this way. Aeterum sonitum audiit. Audiit is perfect tense and third person singular, coming from audio, audere, audivi, auditum, which means to hear. So in this case it's perfect tense. We're going to translate this as heard. It's third person singular and there's not another subject here, so we'll use he to translate it. He heard, sonitum, a sound, and then aeterum, again. Or again, he heard a sound. You could also translate aeterum as a second time. He heard a sound a second time. Next sentence. Temebat sed tandem surrexit invitus, nam omnes cubiculi partes inspicare volebat. We'll translate it from the beginning of the sentence here, tamebat, down to this comma. Nam is a conjunction that means for, and so I'm pretty confident that this part of the sentence here can stand on its own, and that'll make it a little bit easier to translate these 5 words first before we translate the rest of the sentence there. Just break it into 2 manageable parts. So first part, tamebat, said tandem, surrexit, and vitus. Our verbs are here, tamebat, which is imperfect, and third person singular. And it's from the verb timeo, temere, which means fear, or to be afraid. So in this case, he was afraid, or he was being afraid. Said tandem, surrexit, and vitus. Said is a conjunction that means but. He was afraid, but. And then tandem is an adverb that means at last, but at last. And then surrexit is another verb, and it's perfect tense, third person singular, and it's from surgo, surgere, surrexi, which means rise. This particular form is perfect tense. You can tell by the X, which is a perfect tense stem marker. So we'll translate this as he rose, and then in vitus is an adjective that means unwillingly. But he rose unwillingly. Next sentence, or next part of the sentence, nam, for, and let's go ahead and find our verbs before we go any further, which is wolebat, which is imperfect, third person singular, from the verb wolo wele, that means to want. So we'll translate this as, for he was wanting. And what was he wanting to do but to examine? We've got a nice example of a complementary infinitive here, where the meaning of our main verb wanting is complemented by the meaning of inspicere, which is an infinitive that means to examine. And what did he want to examine? Our direct object is here with omnes partes. Omnes partes. Omnis, omne is an adjective that means all. And both of these nouns here are third declension, accusative, feminine, and plural. So all parts is the way that you would translate this. And then cubiculi is genitive and singular. So you would translate it all parts of the room. And we'll go ahead and translate the whole sentence. So tamebat, he was afraid, or he was fearing. Said, but. Tandem, at last. Surrexit, he rose. And vitus, unwillingly. For, he was wanting to inspect. Remember, this is a complementary infinitive. He was wanting to inspect. Omnes partes, which is accusative, feminine, and plural. It should be translated as all parts. Omnes partes, all parts, and then cubiculi, all parts of the room. Remember that cubiculi is genitive and singular from a second declension neuter noun, cubiculum. For he was wanting to inspect all parts of the room. And just to be clear, tamebat is imperfect, wolebat is imperfect, and surrexit is perfect. Next sentence. Max tamen risit. Risit here is our verb, and is from ridio, ridere, risi, risus, which means to laugh or smile. You can see here, resit matches up with our third principal part, resi. So this particular verb here is perfect tense and third person singular. So mox, soon, and then tamen means however. Soon, however, he laughed. Soon, however, he laughed. Next sentence, eke, look. Sub lecto erat files, obesa et semisomna. Eke just means look, and then our verb is here with erat, which is translated as was. It's from sum esse, and this particular form of sum esse is imperfect and third person singular. So sub lecto, under the bed. Erat was a cat, a third declension feminine noun, was a cat, and then obesa et somnisomna, fat and half asleep. Under the bed was a cat, fat and half asleep. Next sentence, prope filum sextus morem mortuum vidit. Our verb is here, vidit, which is perfect tense, third person singular, and you're going to translate it as saw. So sextus saw, prope filum, which means near the cat. Prope is a preposition that takes the accusative, and here, filum, is a noun in the accusative case. This M here is usually in the accusative case. It's a nice giveaway. So sextus saw, near the cat, murum mortorum, a dead mouse. Sextus saw, near the cat, a dead mouse. And the word morem here is from mus mores. It's a third declension noun. And so that em ending there is an accusative and singular case ending. Accusative and singular case ending. Next sentence. Musa vit sextus non necesse est hoc corpus sub stercore celare. Our verbs are here. Musa vit, which is perfect tense, and it's from the verb to mutter. Perfect tense, third person singular. And necesse est. Est is present tense and third person singular from the irregular verb sum esse, which is the verb to be in Latin. We can go ahead and translate this. Also, we've got infinitive celare. You can tell it's infinitive since this particular form of the verb ends with an re ending. Now, let's go ahead and translate it. So, sextus, musawit, sextus muttered. Sextus muttered. Non necesse est. It's not necessary. And what is it not necessary to do but to hide hoc corpus, this body, sub stercore, under manure. Corpus is a third declension neuter noun meaning body, and hoc is a demonstrative adjective that means this. So he's pointing at this particular mouse under his bed and saying it's not necessary to bury this body under manure. Translated one more time. Sextus muttered, it is not necessary to bury this body under manure, sub stercore. And that does it for this exercise. Nice job.